All right. Isaiah chapter 50, starting in verse 1. Thus says Yahweh, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have you sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away. Wherefore, when I came, was there no man? When I called, was there none to answer? Is my hand shortened at all, that I cannot redeem? Or have I no power to deliver? Behold, at my rebuke I dry up the sea. I make the rivers a wilderness. Their fish stink because there is no water, and dies for thirst. I clothe the heavens with blackness, and make sackcloth their covering. Yahweh Elohim has given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. He wakes morning by morning, he wakes my ear to hear as the learned. Yahweh Elohim has opened my ear, and I was not rebellious, neither turned away back. I gave my back to the smiters, and my cheeks to them that plucked off the hair. I hid not my face from shame and spitting. For Yahweh Elohim will help me, therefore shall I not be confounded. Therefore have I set my face like a flint, and I know that I shall not be ashamed. He is near that justifies me. Who will contend with me? Let us stand together. Who is my adversary? Let him come near to me. Behold, Yahweh Elohim will help me. Who is he that shall condemn me? Lo, they all shall wax old as a garment. The moth shall eat them up. Who is among you that fears Yahweh, that obeys the voice of his servant, that walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of Yahweh and stay upon his Elohim. Behold, all you that kindle a fire, that compass yourselves about with sparks, walk in the light of your fire, and in the sparks that you have kindled. This shall you have a my hand, you shall lie down in sorrow. Isaiah 51, verse 1. Hearken to me, you that follow after righteousness, you that seek Yahweh. Look unto the rock whence you are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence you are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. For Yahweh shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yahweh. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Hearken unto me, my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation. For a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth. My arms shall judge the people. The isle shall wait upon me, and on my arms shall they trust. Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look upon the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. What do we do when the lights go out? Many people struggle with darkness, physically and emotionally. Darkness can be scary and can bring fear and hopelessness. How many times have you seen days of dark, dull weather suddenly replaced with the gleaming light of the sun? How often have we felt the cold, chilling fingers of autumn instantly lose their grip as the sun brightens the sky overhead? We have all seen gloomy days immediately transformed by the appearance of light. My focus is not the physical light. but to the spiritual facet of human life. However dark, dank, and dreary a day may be, when I am exposed to the light of the word of Yahweh, I am instantly brightened. They are like a warm ray of light in a dreary place. The Bible says in Psalms 119, verse 105, Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Even those who walk closely with Yahweh will experience times of darkness. There are times in our lives when nothing seems to make sense. Out of natural response to difficult times is to cry out to Yahweh. Why? Only Yahweh has the answer to that. Our question is supposed to be not why, but how. How are we going to act? How are we going to react or interact? When Yahweh does a deep work, it's not easy. Surgery hurts, but it brings healing, hope, a better future, but it hurts. In Isaiah 50, verse 10, who is among you that fears Yahweh, that obeys the voice of his servant, that walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of Yahweh. Rely on your Elohim. Now faith, like film, is developed in the dark. Those of the greatest devotion may know the deepest darkness. Yahweh wants to develop our faith. When you go through darkness and come out on the other side, you will learn things you have never known before. Job says, in Job chapter 5, verse 7, Yet man is born unto trouble, as the sparks fly upward. The existence of suffering in a world created by a good and almighty Elohim is a fundamental theological dilemma. The fall of man and the general sinfulness of the race ensures a certain amount of suffering to every innocent child who is born into the world. Sin begets suffering. So trouble is born with us. Suffering is universal, and you can't avoid it. Every human being has many pains and troubles and anxieties. They have to bear these. Every saint has his own dark days of suffering. There are times in our lives as Yahweh's people that we have to serve Yahweh in the midst of darkness. If you are in darkness, it does not necessarily mean that you are out of the will of Yahweh or that you have sinned. We must continue to stand on Yahweh's word. The promises of Yahweh remain the same whether the sun is shining or darkness comes upon us. When you are in the dark, you do not have to have an explanation. You need Yahweh. A relationship is more important than a reason. Yahweh desires to use us in the midst of a darkness. So it's more important to be with Yahweh in a valley of darkness than it is to be on sunlight peaks without Yahweh. Amen. Job says, Yahweh has put darkness in my path. You find this in Job 19, verse 8. He has fenced up my way that I cannot pass. He has set darkness in my path. Habakkuk explained, how long shall I cry and you not hear? In Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 2, O Yahweh, how long shall I cry and thou wilt not hear? Even cry out unto thee of violence and thou wilt not save. John the Baptist sent messengers from the prison where he was at, and he asked Yeshua, are you really the Messiah, or should we look for someone else? John the Baptist. Amen. Matthew 11, verse 3. And he said unto him, art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Each of these great men of Elohim came to a time in their life that they did not understand or comprehend why and what was fully happening to them. 3 examples of those whose faith has developed in the dark. John Milton, in the darkness of his blindness, wrote Paradise Lost. John Bunyan was in the Bedford jail in London, England. He wrote Pilgrim's Progress. The Apostle John was in exile on the island of Patmos. He wrote the book of Revelation. This is why David said in Psalms 119, verse 71, "It's good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might learn thy statutes." A believer's reflection on pain must end with a vision of the kingdom of heaven.
Praise Yahweh.
The true end and home of humanity belongs in the kingdom of heaven. This is why the Apostle Paul said in Romans 8, verse 18, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us."
Amen.
He contrasts the suffering of the present time with the glory of the kingdom of heaven.
That's right.
One thing is sure, suffering is an important element of the believer's faith. The Apostle Paul wrote in Philippians 3, verse 8, "Yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Messiah Yeshua my Master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Messiah." It takes courage to live through suffering. It takes honesty to observe it. Therefore, never doubt in the dark what you've learned in the light.
Amen.
The test of your character is not what we do in the light. The test of our character is what we do in the dark. It has been said we can dress as though we are intelligent, but when we open our mouth, people will know whether we really are intelligent or not. There is a difference in trust in Yahweh when things are going well and when everything seems to be going wrong.
Amen.
Isaiah says, "Trust in Yahweh and rely on your Elohim." The Bible never guarantees a life free of darkness, but the dark moments of our life last only as long as necessary for Yahweh to accomplish his purpose. Yahweh uses trials, he uses difficulties, and he uses pain to equip us for more effective service to him.
Amen.
Yahweh uses hardships to develop character of Messiah within us. How does Yahweh develop our faith in the darkness? Yahweh tells us to take 2 steps. First, we are to look to Yeshua, trust in the Master. It's been said we live by promises, not by explanations. Just because it does not make sense to us does not mean that it does not make sense to Yahweh. Just because it does not make sense now does not mean that it will not make sense later.
Yeah.
Another man said, "Where reason cannot wade, faith must swim." We must continue to stand on Yahweh's word regardless what's going on in life. When the world's falling around us, it's Yahweh's word. It never changes, never will.
Amen.
His word never changes. It remains constant through all of the seasons of our life. Proverbs 3:5, "Trust in Yahweh with all thy heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path."
Amen.
And second, we must rely on our Elohim. Apostle Paul had much to boast about his qualifications found in Philippians chapter 3, verse 4, 5, and 6. Philippians 3:4, "Though I might also have confidence in the flesh, If any other man thinks that he has whereof he might trust in the flesh, I more. Circumcised the 8th day, of the stock of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of the Hebrews, as touching the law, a Pharisee, concerning zeal, persecuting the church, touching the righteousness which is in the law, blameless. However, he understood that impressive credentials are not what really matter. Paul rightly saw that knowing Yeshua and relying on him are the source of genuine value in life. Writing from places that were lowly in both physical and emotional sense, the apostle is a triumphant example of how believers should view themselves. The best way to do that is to recognize Yeshua as the source of our power. In Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Messiah which strengthen me. Faith in Yahweh means we rely on him and depend on his reliability. Having faith means realizing that Yahweh is bigger and greater than any troubles that you go through.
Amen.
Genuine faith is reliant on Yahweh's direction and on who he is. Yahweh is reliable. So what we need to recognize as dark periods in our lives are designed to be treasures from Yahweh. Isaiah 45 verse 3, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou may know that I, Yahweh, which called you by your name, is the Elohim of Israel. There are some things that we can only understand in the darkness. There are treasures in the darkness. Those things which men discover today are treasures which have been in darkness for countless generations. Jewels which have been concealed in hidden places during millennials. Isaiah 45 verse 3 says, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that thou may know that I, Yahweh, which call by thy name, am an Elohim of Israel. For example, have you ever heard someone say the stars are out tonight? The fact is, the stars are out during the daytime also. But we cannot see them because of the sunlight. There are some treasures of darkness that are only revealed at night. In the light we see that which is near, but the darkness we see that which is far away.
Amen.
In the light we may think our brightest thoughts in the day, but we will think our deepest thoughts during the night. We may learn more about others during the day, but we will learn more about ourselves during the dark.
Amen.
You will gradually realize that in the darkness you are learning some eternal truths. One of the great dangers of darkness is that you may be tempted to light your own fire. If Yahweh is one who has allowed darkness to come your way, then do not be foolish to light your own fire. In other words, do not try to undo what Yahweh is doing. A man-made fire is deceptive, in contrast to righteousness, the unrighteous, in times of darkness, instead of trusting in Yahweh, trust in themselves. They kindle a light themselves to walk by. Isaiah 50 verse 11 says, but watch out, you who live in your own light and warm yourself by your own fires. This is the reward you will receive from me. You will soon fall down in great torment. For example, Yahweh told Abraham that he and Sarah would have a child of their own. Yahweh gave a wonderful promise. However, Yahweh did not fulfill this promise instantly. And Abraham, in the midst of his darkness of doubt, created his own fire with Hagar. Ishmael was born. In case you don't know, that's where we get the Arabs today. Go at war with Arabs. They don't like their brothers, and their brothers don't like him. Ishmael was always a fighter. Think about the suffering that came to Abraham and the world because he did not wait on Yahweh in the midst of his darkness. Has darkness come to your life? We've all been through the darkness, sickness. Either that or you know family or friends that's going through darkness. Are you waiting on Yahweh or are you creating your own fire? In Isaiah 25, O Yahweh, you are my Elohim. I will highly honor you. I will praise your name. You have done miraculous things. You have been completely reliable in carrying out your plan from long ago. You have turned cities into ruins and fortified cities into piles of rubble. Foreigners' palaces into cities that will never be rebuilt. That is why strong people will honor you, and cities ruled by the world's tyrants will fear you. Go to countries that are run by tyrants, they ban the Bible. Why? If it's just a book. Verse 4, you have been a refuge for the poor, a refuge for the needy in their distress, a shelter from the rain and shade from the heat. A tyrant's breath is like a rainstorm against a wall, like heat in a dry land. You calm the uproar of foreigners. The song of tyrants is silenced, like heat that is reduced by the shadow of a cloud. On this mountain, Yahweh Sabaoth will prepare for all people a feast with the best foods, a banquet with aged wine, and the best food and the finest wine. On this mountain he will remove the veil of grief covering all people, and the mask covering all nations. He will swallow up death forever. Adonai Yahweh will wipe away tears from every face.
Amen.
He will remove the disgrace of his people from the whole earth. Yahweh has spoken. On that day, his people will say, this is our Elohim. We have waited for him. And now he will save us. Yahweh bless.